Hi, my name is Sean Douglas, and today we're going to be going over the basic fundamentals of chipping a golf ball. So first off, what is chipping a golf ball? Essentially, chipping a golf ball is where you have a ball that is somewhat close to the green but not quite on the green, and you don't have a means of putting it, so you must fly the ball to hit the green and then roll out towards a hole. Now there are a couple different chips that you can do. Of course, there's a standard chip that's going to have a medium trajectory, hit the ground, and roll out a little bit. Then you have what's called a bump and roll, where you're going to hit the ball in a downward motion, and it's going to have the trajectory be lower, and the ball is going to roll a lot farther. Then you also have what is called the flop shot or a flop chip, and that is essentially where you're opening the face of the club up, and you're swinging to lift the ball into the air and land the ball softly on the green where it doesn't roll near as far as a standard chip or a bump shot. So when you're gripping a golf club, you can use actually a sets of wedges, such as these right here: pitching wedge, gap wedge, and then sand wedge. Or if it calls for it, you can use a 9 or an 8 iron, your short irons. If you wanted, you even could use a 7 or a 6, as long as you don't get into your 3s and 4s and 2 irons. You could chip a ball with pretty much any iron. But what I like to do, I like to use my gap wedge for all my chipping, whether it be a flop, a standard chip, or a bump and roll. So there's a certain way that you can choose to hold the club. So first off, we have the 10-fingered grip, which, as you can see, 8 of my knuckles are almost directly lined in a row. And when you have them down, your thumbs are down the seam of the club. And that's just going to be the 10-fingered grip or baseball grip. Then you also have the overlapping grip, where the only thing you change from that baseball grip is you just take your dominant hand pinky and you're going to put it right in between your non-dominant hand middle finger and index finger. So that's going to look like that. It looks almost exactly the same from the front as a baseball grip does, but on the back you're just kind of pinching that pinky in between those two fingers. After that, you have your interlocking grip, which is mostly associated with the pros. Vast majority of them use this grip to better help any kind of wrist action in the shot. So the interlocking grip, it's pretty much the same as that overlapping grip, except you're going to lift your index finger up on your non-dominant hand and you're going to slide your pinky almost underneath it. So it looks like this right here. You get a shot of that. It's like that right there. And they just interlock. A thumb still can be down the seam of the club. And whichever grip you go with is the one you want to use for chipping. Me personally, I still use a 10-finger grip. Probably shouldn't do that, probably should go with the interlocking, but it's just the way I've been taught to chip for a while. So if you come right over here, I'll show you these 3 different kinds of chips and how they should be performed. First off, we have the standard chip. So when you're coming to chip the ball, you want to address the ball and you want your feet lined up towards your target. So if I'm chipping for this front one right here, so before the video cut off, like I was saying, in a chip shot, your feet don't want to be wider than your shoulders. You want to have them slightly closer together, maybe a foot apart from one another. And your shoulders are always going to be slightly open towards a hole. So what I mean by that is they're not going to be on line towards a hole. You want to almost open your chest up a little bit and turn towards a hole. So just like this is a proper address. Hands want to be not way out here, but not way in here. Just in a comfortable position, about 2 feet outside of your body. And when you're swinging on this ball, you want to take it back, and the backswing never goes above halfway. It just goes maybe here, and you want to swing on a downward motion, so you're hitting the ball on a decelerating swing. So this is how the standard chip should look. Like that. That's a standard chip. Then you have what's called the bump and roll. The only difference here is instead of having your club face just laying naturally, you want to turn your wrist and close it inwards a little to make it on a lower trajectory and roll a little bit further. So we'll see if we can do that on this one. That ball rolls a lot further. And then you have the flop shot, which you're just going to open it up. Instead of rolling it to the left, you want to roll it backwards to the right, opening the face of the club up. And this is going to loft the ball high into the air and land softly on the green. Just like that. So those are 3 kinds of chips, and just a quick rundown of how you do that. I'll have a couple more videos showing you, or showing me hit a couple of them at a time. The goal of a chip shot is to fly the ball between you and the hole, and let the ball land and roll the rest of the way. For the standard chip shot, first address the ball like you would any other shot. Now bring your feet slightly closer together, open your shoulders up to the target you're aiming at, grip the club with your desired grip, and choke down on the club where your hands are at the bottom of the grip. Keep the hands leaning slightly in front of the ball while placing 80% of your weight on your front foot. When taking the club away, it should never come back more than parallel with the ground. Make sure that the wrists are firm and locked and that your grip is neither too tight or too loose. When swinging down, make sure not to sweep the ball upwards but hit the ball on a downwards motion. Use the saying, let the club do the work. The follow-through of this chip should be shorter than the backswing. Now demonstrate this to the students multiple times, making sure to answer any questions. On a chipping green, each athlete will have a basket of golf balls, around 50, and will practice aiming for a particular pin and chipping towards that pin. The coach will be walking around to correct anything that needs correct. Next, we have the flop shot. While this shot is normally considered in a class of its own, there are many times when a chip flop shot is necessary. The flop shot is hoisting the ball high into the air, landing the ball softly on the green, and rolling a little distance. This shot can be used for greens with severe angularity or greens with little room to work with. Opposite of the bump and run, the correct way to hit this shot is to open your shoulders even more toward the target than a standard chip shot, and instead of closing the face of the club, we want to open it. The more open the club face, the higher the ball will go. Instead of rotating the club face forward, rotate it backwards to achieve the desired angle. This is one of the only chip shots that may require a wider stance than normal. Have the students collect their balls from the standard chip shot and have them try the flop chip shot towards a particular pin, with the coaches still going around. Lastly, we have the bump and run chip shot. The bump and run chip shot lands closer to the fringe of the green and in some cases even off of the green entirely, and rolls a longer distance than a standard chip shot. The fundamentals of this chip are the same as a standard chip shot with a few exceptions. You can either use a lower club such as a 7 or 8 iron, or you can close the face of a higher angled club. Closing the face simply means rotating the club in your hands to make the club face angle closer to the 90-degree mark. Have the students collect their balls from the flop shot and have them try the bump and run chip. The coaches should be still walking around to correct mistakes.